All right, so I'm here interviewing Antonio from Jagged Little Pill. I just wanted to ask him some questions about how he debuted on Broadway and his experience as an actor. So, what was your perspective on Broadway growing up, especially when younger people had less opportunities to debut? And has that perspective shifted seeing the demographic of actors shift?
Yeah, so my perception of Broadway growing up was, when I'm 30, I'm gonna make my Broadway debut. It's gonna be great, grand, and everything. Like I'll be happy, just being tree number three, and it'll be great. But as I grew older, I think a huge part of why the demographic has sort of changed in like the fact that younger people are like, wait, we can do this too. We can get into the business sooner if we feel like we're ready. Is the Jimmy Awards. The Jimmy Awards have shifted the view on like, you must go to school, you have to train for 4 years before you're ready to make it to Broadway. And for a lot of people, that is completely the way that it is, and that is great. And for everyone has their own path, right?
Yeah.
But I think the Jimmys has sort of changed that and been like, if you feel like you're ready, this is your showcase. This is your time to showcase your talent and possibly make it younger. And I think it's a lot better to be authentic with casts. If there's a high schooler role, I think it should be played by someone who has had that experience, either going through that experience or has recently been through that experience.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's going to be a lot more of that changing pretty soon.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so. I mean, it's exciting to have different people, and obviously, people who are older, if they can still look the part and get those opportunities, that's great.
Right.
But they also have a wealth more of opportunities to act as an adult, so they can take those positions, and you can kind of bring people through and maybe feel more comfortable because older people can act older instead of trying to act younger.
Right. And I feel like the reason that Broadway was casting older people for younger roles is because the usual normal was to be 22 when you're starting Broadway instead
Yeah.
of 17, 18.
Mm-hmm.
So people are starting a little bit older. So like a 28-year-old will sometimes play a high schooler. We
Mm-hmm.
had 35-year-olds playing high schoolers in Jagged Little Pill.
Yeah.
And they did great, but I think it's a little bit more authentic when you have someone who's been through that experience, at least recently.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I think that makes sense.
mhm.
What's been the best part about working with people your age, and then the best part about working with people who are older than you?
I think the biggest thing about working with people my age is, you know, because it's so new that young people are coming into the business,
Yeah.
it's good to have people your age going through the same thing that you are. Like I bonded with all of the young people of Broadway right when it happened. Like me, Renee, Andrew, Celia, all these people were all kind of coming up at one time. And it was very cool to see like we all became instantly friends because we're all experiencing the same sort of thing at the same time.
Yeah.
So that's sort of a comfort and knowing that you have people going through what you're going through because it can be extremely intimidating walking into a room like on your first day of Broadway rehearsal and you're the youngest person in the room by far
Yeah.
and everyone else has like made their debut, they're veterans, like, and that is also good. I mean, I look at Derek. Derek's been doing this for a while now, and the good thing about working with people who are older than me, he taught me so much about, who I am as an actor and who I am as a person in this world.
Yeah.
So it's also so great to be working with people who are older, who have been experienced and can teach you the way that things are. So yeah, it's really great to work with both all ranges of people, because I'm the youngest in our cast. I started out the show when I was 17,
Mm-hmm.
and I think our oldest member is about 50.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a good range of people on our cast, and I think that's so awesome.
Yeah. Does it
So
kind of feel like very second family sort of, you have the roles like, I know that during the panel Elizabeth was talking about, she's like how, well, Celia was saying that Elizabeth is kind of like the mom of the
Yeah,
group, and that she takes care of people a lot, and that you kind of maybe more naturally fit into those roles because there is such a like different age range.
absolutely. Yeah, Elizabeth and Sean are like the best parents ever. I love them. They're my second family, 100%.
Yeah,
Derek is my brother, like literally my brother. So like, yeah, it's a second family, and I love and miss them so very much. I hope
yeah,
to see them very soon.
yeah.
We'll see.
Me too. Me too. I hope that it can come back, and that, I don't know when it's going to be, but that whenever
Yeah,
it does come back, people have the ability to do it, because, man, who knows? Jobs change, people change,
yeah. I can't
things
stay
happen.
unemployed for too long. You know,
Exactly.
you gotta.
So,
Yep.
do different things. So, but I hope, it'll come back in some way or another.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm hopeful.
um, yeah, me too. Me too. I think it's best to be hopeful. Otherwise, you just kind of get too stuck in the negative of everything.
Yep.
Um, and you've made a very successful Broadway debut, but do people still bring up going back to school? Do they still ask you about why you didn't go down a more socially expected career path? And if you have that kind of commentary, how do you deal with it?
Yeah. So I think from a very young age, I didn't want to go to college. It's always been sort of in my mind, like that's not for me, and that's 100% okay. And it's 100% okay if you feel like you want to go to school.
Yeah.
As I said, like everyone has their own path. And I think I made that pretty clear to my parents pretty early on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so they were sort of on board with it. And I always grew up with like the standard of like, why have a plan B? Like put 100% into plan A.
Yeah.
And if like, don't even think about that not working out. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I went full force into that, and I stuck with it. So I was able to gain the trust of my parents and people around me. Everyone sort of knew that like this is what I was gonna do.
Yeah.
And when I was able to, go and do this and not go to school, I think a lot of people sort of understood. They were like, "Yeah, no, it's okay. He's gonna be okay,
Yeah.
and he's gonna do this." And I mean, school was obviously in the cards though, because
Mm-hmm.
I did college auditions. I auditioned for 5 schools. I got into Pace. I was gonna be going to Pace,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and then schedule things happen. But it's always open. It's always something in the back of my mind where if I wanted to go back, 100%, I'd go
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to keep the options open. I haven't really had many people say like, "Oh, you should go to school. You should do this. Like, you should do this thing."
Yeah.
Because I think this career path, especially in the town that I grew up in,
Mm-hmm.
like, is very foreign to people so they don't really know.
Yeah.
And most people from where I grew up, like, have that. I'm gonna go to college. I'm gonna be a doctor. I'm gonna be this. Like
Yeah.
stuff that you have to go to school for. So when I was like, yeah, I'm gonna just like do musical theater. I'm gonna be like, peace out, school. I'm gonna go and do that now. It was very foreign to them. So I don't think they really questioned it. They were just like, yeah, go do that. So
No.
yeah, I didn't deal with it too much, thankfully. So
Which is good.
yeah,
Yeah, I think it kind of depends on where you're from, how you're raised, people's expectations. I think
yeah,
hopefully now that people are getting to see people your age debut, make this a genuine career, that younger kids can say, this is an example of somebody who's actually made it. This is, and that hopefully I can do it too, if you want to.
absolutely.
So I think it's exciting the way that the trajectory is going, and um, seeing younger people act in not just in plays and musicals, but in movies, and seeing
Yeah,
so many child actors and people really come into it. I think it's really exciting. Yeah.
yeah, very cool.
Yeah. So, when and how did you feel like you were ready to pursue theater as a career? For me, I've definitely gotten really used to numerical grading and that sort of being a deciding factor for my intellectual abilities, quote unquote.
Yeah.
Um, and I think about how I'm going to sort of define my worth and how I'm going to think about um, my successes in life because most of my time has been based on I got to get an A. So, how are you able to sort of separate yourself from that and make choices about your future for yourself?
That's a great question because growing up, I never cared about the letter grade ever. I was so bad in I wasn't bad in school, but I don't think I cared enough.
Yeah.
Like I I did fine in school. I'm not saying like I failed,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
like I never really cared about the letter grade. I didn't because I wasn't like the smartest person, so I didn't want to set an unrealistic expectation for myself. So
Mm.
I went to a really cool high school where I was able to work with teachers one on one a lot and
Mm.
talk to them about like what I really wanted. And Tyler Capel was my choir teacher. And did you know that, by the way?
Mm-hmm. I think you told me. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, he was my choir teacher, and I was able to like really talk with him just about what I actually wanted to do and not what I was like learning in school and getting A's and B's and C's for, like
Yeah.
it's, uh, it happens all the time.
Happened to me too. I don't know.
Yeah, it happens. Literally, it doesn't matter. Oh my
Yeah.
God, I wish people could know. Um, but what was the first part of the question again? Because I so focused on like the letter grade thing because
That's okay.
it
Like,
triggered.
when did you feel and how did you feel that you were ready to pursue a career in
Oh,
theater?
right. So like I truly think, well, there's a few other times when there were moments I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do this. There were times my sophomore year of high school
Mm.
where I was like, yep, I'm gonna do this. But it was for a recording artist career. I was like, yeah,
Oh,
I'm gonna
okay.
record music. So I recorded an EP that
Mm.
I will never let anyone listen to ever. Um, because
Do you have,
I was a sophomore in high school. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. Like
yeah.
I just did it. And I'm glad.
Don't you have it? Don't you have music up like from
Yeah, don't
2016?
ever. I'm not going to market that whatsoever. Don't even look it up. I hope you have it. Um, so but I'm grateful for the experience. I'm
Mm.
grateful that I had that experience, and now I know kind of how to record in a studio, which is really cool. And a lot of musical theater actors haven't really had that opportunity to do that. So like
Yeah.
recording in a studio is a big plus to
Hmm.
have. So I'm grateful for that opportunity. And I think the main thing that eventually was like, yeah, I'm going to do this was the Jimmy Awards
Hmm.
because it was like the first time I was like, wait a second. I like technically just made my Broadway debut. That was really cool. Not
Yeah.
really. I thought so at the time. I was like, Broadway debut, yay.
Hmm.
Um, and that gave me a lot of confidence in myself. Um, and just, meeting all the people that I did that night, like all of the agents and managers and judges that were there, the casting directors, like it suddenly didn't seem like such a far off goal.
Yeah.
And then obviously a few months later, I got the Facebook message to send in an audition for Jagged. So
Hmm.
things happened really quickly after the Jimmys. It was just
Yeah.
like very fast.
Hmm.
And kind of slowed down because Jagged took like 2 years to get to Broadway. But you know,
It's a
it
process.
it went
Yeah.
by very fast. So
Yeah.
it was definitely sort of the Jimmy Awards, I think.
Mm. Which is still such a cool thing to me, and I really don't think I could have imagined that existing, like, I don't know, back around the time I was born or
Yeah.
that time ago, because it's just such a number one, it's such a great expression of performing and to bring people together and to just even if people performing there like you, like Renee, hadn't made their debut, just to respect and appreciate high school age performers and to bring a group of people together who are all willing to listen to them and to really appreciate the craft is
Hmm.
something unlike anything I've ever imagined before. So it's honestly
Absolutely.
amazing.
Because, I mean, if any program in a school gets dissed more, it's the freaking theater program. I tell you
Yeah.
what.
Yeah.
So I think, I mean, like all the sports, and I play sports, so I'm not like dissing them, but like,
Yeah. I did too.
all the sports have a state championship and a national
Yeah.
champion, like and then there's theater that's like, yeah, we got a show and whatever. Nobody cares. Like literally nobody cared. At my school, there were 40 kids in the theater program. It was very small,
Yeah.
but the Jimmy Awards has changed so much about musical theater in high school, and I'm so glad that they've done that and they've changed the perspective on, as we talked about, being able to do this at a younger age than it was normal to do
Hmm.
back in the
Yeah.
day. So
Yeah.
they're
That's great.
cool.
Yeah. It's so cool. And for anyone interested in moving directly into performing after high school, what's the biggest thing they need to start doing for themselves now? Even if it means like you can talk about lessons or anything specific, or more like mentally, what kind of place do they have to put themselves in to sort of be ready for that decision?
Yeah. A lot of people have asked about advice I would give recently, and
Yeah.
the number one thing that I keep thinking about because of how well it worked out for me and for many of the people that are younger on
Hmm.
Broadway
Hmm.
and just in performing in general is putting yourself out there on social media as much as you can.
Yeah.
I mean, TikTok is making stars right now. Like
Hmm.
literally, it's amazing. So I
Yeah.
think whatever you can do, if you're an actor, do those acting challenges or
Yeah.
whatever's out, But if you're a singer, post covers, post original music, post everything, post all that you can on social media right now because that is the number one driving force. I didn't book Jagged Little Pill with an agent or a manager.
Yeah.
I was it was solely on YouTube.
Hmm.
So posting whatever you can, getting yourself out there is huge. Building a following, that is huge in
Yeah.
today's world. As sad as that is, like I wish that you could just, like you need
Go.
somewhat of a following and
Yeah.
a presence on social media. Um, so that is huge. Start building your following now.
Hmm.
Um, Definitely, I didn't believe this when I was going into the business. Um, Building a thick skin is insanely important. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Um, I the amount of auditions I have been on in my career is insane for the short amount of time that I have been doing this.
Hmm.
Just craziness. A lot of TV and film stuff.
Yeah.
That stuff is like send it off and never hear anything ever. So
Yeah.
it's you have to build a thick skin,
Yeah.
and because it is going to happen at some point,
Yeah.
right? So building a thick skin, um, that's huge.
Hmm.
Uh, I think another thing that Renee and I have been talking about a lot
Hmm.
because of what Nick Cordero said. He said, you need to live a full life.
Yeah.
And that's so I see a lot of these musical theater kids, especially in college programs, who are like, this is it, this is all I'm doing, especially in conservatory programs, because
Hmm.
that's all you do for like 12 hours straight.
Yeah.
Like you are only focused on musical theater and like doing that. You need to have other things that you do in your life
Yeah.
to keep your sanity, truly. So that what he said is so true in the world today.
Yeah.
You cannot be consumed by just what you're doing in your career.
Yeah.
You have to have other hobbies, other things. You have to have, like have a circle of friends around you that you can unwind from all of this craziness that you have to do in your career, especially in performing, because it's just so consuming, you know?
Hmm.
So, and that's really in any career, right?
Yeah.
You have to have something else to go back to.
Hmm.
So to center yourself and to not just focus on one thing. So I think that's huge. That is a big thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a
I
few,
think,
right?
yeah, I think it's something we kind of all forget is that we sort of equate passion with not having any other interests, that your
Yeah,
dream has to be the only thing that you enjoy. But you can have other interests, you can do other things, and it's truly what you should be doing. Like you said, you should, even if it's just sitting at home playing on your Nintendo Switch, just like anything else that you can have fun, engage with people who are even outside of the theater world, and sort
mm,
of get a perspective on their life, because sometimes it can kind of center you to be like, oh, like other people are like lawyers and doctors and doing other things, and I can
yeah,
sort of get a view into their life, and the world kind of gets a little bigger every time, at least for me.
right.
So I think it's really good advice.
Mm.
And so younger people are interested in theater and the arts more than ever before, but the arts are definitely still lacking a lot of respect for the struggle that they're facing through the pandemic. What has theater meant for you as a young adult, and what do you want to tell others who don't see the impact of the arts on future or current generations?
Well, first of all, if you're someone who doesn't see the impact of art on future generations, I don't know if we can talk anymore. Seriously,
Honestly,
like,
honestly,
yeah, and I was saying in the last question, like the arts are so
yeah.
underrated, underappreciated in
Mm-hmm.
our society. First of all, we would be literally nowhere without art, without music, without just art in general, honestly.
Yeah.
Like we everyone listens to music.
Yeah.
You know, everyone watches movies and TV shows. These things are essential for our everyday life,
Yeah.
right? So I think the fact that people even are thinking about like defunding the theater programs and doing all that, like I can't even imagine that. If
Yeah.
I grew up without a theater program or without a community theater to express myself because I was such a different kind of kid that my parents didn't know what the hell was going on with me. They had to throw me into a show, you know, I had
Mm-hmm.
to express myself in a different way, right? That I can't really express to in like a normal setting. So
Yeah.
I needed the arts, and obviously that worked out pretty well,
Yeah.
thank God. But yeah, the arts have meant an insane amount to me. They've been my whole life.
Yeah.
Yes, I was doing sports and everything, like that was a huge part of my life, but I mean, if I didn't have a theater program, I would not obviously not be where I am today. So
Yeah.
it's a huge part of our culture, of our world, and literally I will never talk to you again if you think otherwise. Truly, I
Yeah.
won't.
No, yeah. I mean, it's sad that, with the way the government wants to put out spending, Broadway, I think, puts out like $4 billion
More
in the
than any
industry.
sports team in New York.
And it's so sad that people still talk about it. And right now, like in a pandemic, all we do is spend time on our phone and watch movies. And I love seeing theater people post and be like, think about that. The music you're listening to on Spotify and the movies you're watching on Netflix, that those things are art, and those are the things that you're spending your time with. If if you're not cultivating people's interest in those things, you're not going to get the same quality, and you're not going to get those things, period.
Yeah.
So I think that we need to sort of,
Mm,
with this, hopefully can readjust our perspective on how much it really means to everybody.
absolutely. Absolutely. And as we were saying, literally Broadway rakes in more money than all of the sports teams combined in New York. That's crazy.
That's insane. Yeah.
And the fact that that is underappreciated blows my mind.
Yeah,
Uh,
definitely.
I don't know.
It's,
Next question. I'm getting fired up.
I'm sorry.
Ah,
Well, it's the last question.
last question.
Yeah. So this is the one I asked before.
Hmm.
How do you think your perspective on Phoenix and on Jagged Little Pill has changed since you've been out of that headspace for such a long period of time?
Hmm. So honestly, the other day with the Q&A,
Hmm.
kind of just like opened my mind up to so many things.
Yeah.
Um, just when they were asking like, what's a song that you think would work great in Jagged Little Pill right
Hmm.
now for the climate today? And it, like so many things have happened in the world.
Yeah.
Literally, 2020 is Jagged Little Pill, the sequel. Literally. Like
Pretty
it's
much.
crazy. And I think about, the civil rights movement that is the largest civil rights movement in history, right?
Yeah.
I want to just like rewrite Jagged. I think Jagged needs like a second half, a second
Hmm.
second half, right?
Like a third, three acts instead of two.
4 acts, honestly. 4 acts to do
Yeah.
this. But yeah, there's so many things going on, and my whole perspective is changed.
Yeah.
Because I really didn't. I don't think I before this past civil rights movement and with everything with George Floyd and all that, I had never like I never I think COVID made me focus on it more than I'd ever done before.
Yeah.
Never like really thought about it
Yeah.
until I had nothing else to see, nothing
Hmm.
else to focus on.
Yeah.
And like, I'm a completely different person than when I left Jagged last.
Hmm.
Completely. I have so much more perspective on the world and on politics, on human decency, on morals,
Yeah.
and like are crazy. I don't know. But also, I also was thinking about, Phoenix, his character. And I was thinking just sort of about, you know, his family and how they would be doing in a time like this.
Hmm.
He's the man of the house. The dad is not there.
Yeah.
Um, his sister is already going through something. So how, protective of his sister and how cautious they have to be specifically, that family has to
Yeah.
be. And I just think like that is such a real situation for so many people in the world.
Yeah.
I never really thought about like how relatable that situation can be for so many people until I was like, wow, how just awful this situation has to be for someone who's actually going through that.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
sort of gave me like a whole different perspective on like what someone in that situation could be going through.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have a whole new perspective on Jagged Little Pill as a whole.
Yeah.
I'm very excited to get back and bring it back to life with the new 4 act show that we have. I'm
You
excited.
guys, yeah, you can all write together. You can get Alanis Morissette back in. She
Yeah,
can maybe write some new songs. Maybe she's written
new
some new
song.
songs
Oh, I'm
during.
sure. I'm
I'm
sure.
sure she has.
Yeah. And
And
Diablo Cody has all of this new shit she can write about. I'm excited.
absolutely, absolutely. I mean, it's been almost a year since the show premiered, or since the show came on, right?
Yeah, since the first preview, it's
Yeah,
almost been a year. It's been 11 months,
crazy. Yeah,
which is insane.
it is insane. And yeah, I think about how fit this show is for the moment, and
Hmm.
how listening to the music now evokes something different out of me than it probably did at the beginning of this pandemic. Um, and just how, man, like I'm excited for it to come back in whatever way it can. And I think that if there's any show that anybody is gonna go see on Broadway when it's possible, it has to be Jagged Little Pill. To me.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah.
I'm excited to get back. I am.
Yeah, I hope it's sooner rather than later, but as long as everybody's safe first. That's
Right.
most
Everyone's got to be safe. Everyone's got to be safe.
absolutely. Well, thank you so much for answering all of my
Of
questions.
course. They were great questions. Truly.
I'm
I had
glad. I'm
a good
glad I
time
had
answering
them.
them. It was so good to talk to you again.
Yeah.
You're the
Um,
best.